Hi, everyone. Welcome to Organizing Untold. This is episode 8, and we have another guest here today with us. So we'll go ahead and get started. And thank you for joining us today for this podcast episode. Would you mind introducing yourself, and then we'll jump right in?
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here. My name is Earl Ware. I'm from the Columbia area, a little bit on the outside of it, but I'm from the Columbia area, born and raised. I do real estate. I'm a realtor here. I also do real estate in Georgia, North Carolina, and Nevada, which is specifically Las Vegas. I also do bars and restaurants here in the Columbia area, and I also do landscaping. 33 years old. I got two kids. That's pretty much it.
Okay, nice. And that kind of sums up the question of who you are and what you do. So, just to kind of um, piggyback on just who you are and what you do, how do you feel like organizing contributes to who you are today and has helped you get to where you are today in life?
So I definitely think that organization is a critical part in anything that you do, but especially when you're trying to either be like an entrepreneur of any sort. Because the main thing about entrepreneurship is not only making sure that the business that you start is running smoothly, but the goal for any entrepreneur should be to have it running so smoothly that you can move on to other ventures and be able to not really worry about your past venture, so you can start in that new venture and then eventually have that running smoothly to go to another venture. So I feel like without organization that's not possible. You will just be running in circles and not really be able to go do what you got to do. And for me, that's kind of my goal. Like I just want to start and be a part of as many things that I can, and I feel like organization is really like the main key of that.
That makes a lot of sense. And that that kind of like goes into one of the questions that I was actually going to ask of just like how have you seen that happen in your different business ventures of starting one thing and then like picking up on something else and almost like creating this track record of uh, different ventures that you're in, but in like starting one and then going on to the next. Like how do you see organizing has specifically helped you be able to do that?
So for myself, I've just always had the ability to do a lot of different things, like the way I was raised, the way my parents structured my education, and the things they allowed me to see growing up. I've always had a wide, like ideas and just so many different things that I feel like I want to get into. But when I first started out, I was kind of like trying to do everything at once. And even though I was doing okay with them, I wasn't like maximizing and like basically, like I was saying before, getting those things to their maximum, abilities, to where, they were running as smoothly as they need to run. And also I could not be so stressed out with trying to handle everything. So what I had to do is like kind of focus on one thing, then move to the next. And it's just like for me, like when you have these different ventures and stuff like that, it's kind of like a compounding thing. Like, you hear everybody talking about these days, like, okay, get your credit right and get your business credit right so you can get this business funding and different things like that. Well, I don't really look at it like that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting business funding and stuff like that, but the goal is like if you get a business going and it's profitable, then you can start another business with the profit from that business and then kind of just keep going off of each other. It's kind of like building a portfolio, like how
Yeah.
some people do with real estate. They'll buy a house, rent it out, and then once they get the income from that house, they can use that income to purchase another house, and then just keep doing that until they build up a large portfolio where they have 100 homes they're renting out, and they're getting $100,000 a month, and they're paying all the bills, getting eventually to where they're going to pay off all those loans if they
Mhm.
get them, and then that they're going rent free or mortgage free, and everything is a profit besides like the regular maintenance and stuff like that they have to do on the properties.
Yeah.
So like for me, I started off with I had to hone down on like I did first was restaurants. So like with restaurants, you really have to be organized. And when I say organized, it's like having all your finances in order,
Mhm.
like seeing where your money's going, seeing where it's coming in, everything like that. Because literally, you have to watch like every penny.
Yeah.
So if you're not watching every penny, you might still be in business, but probably not making all the profits that you should.
Mhm.
Your business probably not running as smoothly as it should. So what I had to do first, I just put all my time into the restaurants that I've started, and then once I got those running to where I made sure my staff was running correctly, made sure that they can do everything as if I was there, but they wasn't there. And
Yeah.
to me, like that's a big thing with organization because like I could just say, hey, hire someone and then hope that they do the right thing, and then if they do, wonderful. But in this world that we live in, it's not going to work like that because
No.
the person that's going to, run your business correctly and put the most energy into it and care about it the most is you.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
so that's the main thing right there. So and everyone for me was different. Some of them took longer than the other, but
Mhm.
I never wanted to move on until I felt like they was all organized correctly and running smoothly. Then I was like, okay, I can move on to this next project, whether it be another restaurant or real estate or the
Yeah.
landscaping, by without even having too much stress on me worrying about what I just left from.
That makes a lot of sense. You said a lot, like within all of that, but it's almost like some of the main pieces or main takeaways from it is not waiting on like the business credit and business funding and really just starting, like getting started is like that number one step, just like going for it.
Right.
And then in terms of just like starting one venture and then continuing to go forward into other ventures, but also making sure that you have the team along with you and people you trust to be able to help you organize the venture in a way where you would be comfortable with it continuing to go on. Can you like elaborate on that a little bit more? Do you feel like with the ventures that you've been a part of so far in the restaurants and bars, and then also just like real estate or just overall, do you feel like how do you feel in terms of the success or the downfalls to that? Um, in terms of like how so let me rephrase that question. So when it comes to like restaurants and bars or just real estate or just working with the team in general for you, how do you feel like the success and downfalls of a business venture that you may have been in like have contributed to like how organized you were? So for example, say you were doing a restaurant and like you had a team, like do you feel like there was ever a restaurant or a venture that you were in where the organizing piece wasn't as good as it could have been, and then you kind of like it kind of didn't succeed as much as you wanted it to, or can you talk about that some?
So yeah, of course, like anybody who's done anything, they've had success and they've had failures. But most of the time, you have your success, you learn from your failures.
Yeah.
So specifically on a restaurant that I've had in the past. So like I was saying before, like even in restaurants, like I probably can do every single job in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I know how to cook. I know how to wait if I need to. I know how to bartend. I know how to manage. I know how to do all that. So in one particular restaurant, I was trying to do most of those things, like promotion wise, marketing, managing, handling the books, everything like that. So even though I was doing it, and I was doing it, I wasn't doing it as efficiently as I needed to. So
Hmm.
what I had to learn is, even though I know how to do these things, more organization came when I could find someone to put in that place and kind of like just let them know how I want it to be done, but not necessarily me doing it and trying to stretch myself too thin. It's like putting the right people in the right places.
Yeah.
And you got to, kind of realize those people, and, are they fit for doing it or not? But once you get past that, like if you put together that solid team, like you were saying, a team, like everybody has to know what their role is and where they stand within the team. That's
Yeah.
very important. And it always starts with the top, like whoever's the owner, and them leading by example and making clear of what their role is and what everybody else's role is. And as long as there's not any gray areas in there, you know, it'll work out.
Yeah. That's true. That's very true. And like you said, that's very key to be able to build a structure to where, like you said, not you're not the one doing everything because yeah, you don't want to get to a point of burnout, but
Right.
that is a good lesson to learn to be able to learn along the journey along the way so that you can have that team behind you. Do you still feel like you have like that team behind you to help you continue going forward?
Yeah. So just as I've been going, I've done 5 restaurants. So I feel like with the fifth one, and I'm about to open up another one now in 2 weeks.
Okay,
So
congratulations.
it's always been a learning experience. Even still now, I'm still learning. I'm not, the best ever.
Yeah.
Still learning, but yeah, I feel like right now I have a pretty solid team. Um, going forward, whether with this one coming up and with ones coming in the future, and
Yeah.
that's just something that you always going to everything that we're talking about, like even from like I said with the business funding, you can
Yeah.
go out and get $1 million in business funding. But if you just open a business, you're going to go through the growing pains of the business. So that's why, like you were saying, like is whether you got the funding or not, it's better to just start, because no matter how much money you have, you're still going to go through the growing pains of the business, because you're just starting the business. You're just learning it yourself.
Yeah.
So is you always going to have that no matter what. So
That's right.
yeah, I feel like right now, I pretty got a pretty good team, and just trying to keep it in place. Sometimes you have people fall off, people want to do other stuff,
Yeah.
or they just get tired of doing restaurants or whatever the case is, and they want to go into another field, even though
Mhm.
they might be the best employee that you ever had. But that's always going to be when you run a business. Like you just gotta see it for what it is, and you know try to
Yeah.
get somebody else. Just but you know what you're looking for. You know the personalities you're looking for, and everything like that. So.
Yeah. That's a good point. And do you want to give any like shameless plugs on the restaurant that you're about to open up, or not on here?
I don't have a problem. The restaurant that I'm going to be opening up, it should be opening up in about a week or two. We're shooting for next week, but sometimes it get pushed back. But that's why I haven't put anything out there into the public yet.
Yeah.
But it's going to be called the Grill Island Grill, and it's going to be in the Vista downtown at 1301 Assembly Street. It's
Okay.
going to be a Caribbean restaurant, and we'll have a bar, so we have drinks, Caribbean style drinks, regular drinks as well. But the food menu will be, mostly Caribbean food. So
Nice. 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 Well, congratulations on that. That's like huge to be opening up another restaurant. Like just knowing that you've been able to do it before and then doing it again. Um, Excited for your journey for that, and just looking forward to seeing it grow and seeing the different avenues that you'll be able to take it in with when you start it. So
I really appreciate that.
you're welcome. You're
It's,
welcome.
it's very hard work, but if you work
Yeah,
hard, you'll reap the benefits.
that's definitely true. That's true. I did want to go back to something that you mentioned recently when you were saying, um, hold on, you were saying when you may have someone who's an employee, but it may be your best employee, but if they choose not to continue going on in the restaurant business with you or in the restaurant industry with you, you have to be able to accept that. So that's a part of the journey, I feel like, with organizing and just life in general that we may not address sometimes. So I just wanted to kind of bring that part up just a little bit more in terms of um, how do you navigate that? So, for example, I know you set out a plan and you set out who you want to do what when it comes to creating a team. But when, like you said, when that person chooses that they don't want to be there anymore, how do you make that adjustment in a sense and keep going, even though you already had your plan set?
So I feel like this kind of goes with any business, but how I kind of do it is when I set people up, like we'll start from like manager to like, you have the different aspects in the bar. So you have like a floor manager, like you have a general manager, then you have like a floor manager that handles like everything on the floor. You have your bar manager, you have your kitchen manager, then you have people that's kind of assistant managers, then you have people that you just give certain responsibilities, then you just have your regular employees.
Mhm.
So I feel like at any job, the employees are always going to want to, you know, progress or be promoted, however you
Yeah.
want to look at it. So how I do it is I always say we had the general manager, then you have those other managers that I mentioned. You're going to see within all your employees which ones are coming to work that actually want to progress and be promoted and just like really want to be there, and you're going to see the ones that just show up for a paycheck.
Yeah.
So if you're in a business or you work for a company, if you want to progress in that company, you have to do things that's not on your, like in your what's the word for it, job description.
Yeah.
So say if I'm a head bartender and I know like one day I want to be a general manager, I'm going to insert myself to doing things to maybe help the general manager out, always asking questions. I'm like, well, how are you doing this or how are you doing that? Just kind of always watching them and
Yeah.
maybe even just taking on some of the tasks, even though I wasn't asked to do it, not trying to step over nobody's head, but like helping up that person, when you can and it's something that you can do. And as a manager or as an owner, you will always see those type of people who are, like I said, who are really like has the enthusiasm. Like I'm trying to learn everything that I can because if a spot opens up, I want to be the one that takes it.
Yeah.
So you feel what I'm saying? If you have everybody doing that in the business, then it's automatically going to fill. Now, sometimes it doesn't work out like that. It doesn't work out like that every time. And
Mhm.
what you have to do is you have to do interviews and you just have to, go with your gut and just, from your experience, like I said, mostly like personality and background experience, and hope that you pick the right person. Could be the right fit or not, but you just kind of like trial and error on that if it's not somebody that's already in house
Yeah.
or that's not recommended.
That makes sense. So, in a sense, like using like when someone chooses to leave, that who you may have like had in mind for doing a certain job, you go to the people who are doing their work and wanting to be promoted to kind of like see how committed they are to getting promoted to the next position. And so
Correct.
those are the people that fill that spot. Is that right?
Correct. That's the first thing that I look at.
Okay.
I look at like, hey, who, like when I put out scheduling, who wants to work the most, who wants to take the hours that nobody wants to take,
Mhm.
because those are the people that I see that are committed. They're not just worried about making a paycheck. I know 90% of people who work a job, that's their main concern.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at the long-term goal of it, then you're doing those things. So for me, that's what I first look at. Like, okay, who's my next best employee? Who do I feel like can take on this job? And that's what if I feel like I have someone like that, then I'll give them the opportunity. If I
Mhm.
don't, then I have to, like I said, go to maybe recruiting or hiring and just see if I can find someone to fill that void.
That makes sense. And so that would be then the second step. Is that right?
Yeah, that would be the second thing I would do if the first thing is not an option,
Okay. Okay.
finding somebody in house already.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And just like I guess taking zooming out a little bit, how do you feel like with just being in charge of so many different business ventures and having been in the restaurant and bar industry, and then also doing real estate, but still being in the restaurant and bar industry and doing real estate, and then like you said, you have two kids at home. How do you feel like organizing contributes to just your life overall in general? Like, what do you feel like are some things that really help you to be able to stay grounded and to keep yourself organized and being able to lead different businesses and different ventures?
So for me, the main thing is like I've always been an entrepreneur. So like I said, I mean, it's not always been peaches and cream. You know what I'm saying? Like it's been times where I had to double back to different businesses and make sure they get back on page or whatever the case is. But for me, what I've figured out now is that you got to have something that you're going to fall back on if these other things aren't working out.
Mm,
And for me right now is real estate. I
yes.
just kind of didn't figured it out with real estate to where I don't care what the market is looking like or where the interest rates are or what's going on in the market. Like for me, I look at real estate as something that is always going on. It's like how people say like we always gonna need tissue paper or something like that,
Yeah.
using that analogy. So for me, I look at real estate like that. So right now, even though I started first in restaurants, when I got into real estate, I first got into it just for part time, just to pick up another source of income. But
Yeah.
I seen that it was more stable than like restaurants, because like restaurants in Colombia, normally they have a shelf life about 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
Some of them longer, some of them shorter.
Yeah.
So when I seen that, I'm like, okay, well, real estate is something that I could, fall back on. Just say if something happens at one of my restaurants that I didn't foresee
Yeah.
or something like that. So it's just something that I see that I can, if not only just fall back on it, I could fund my other business ventures with.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a smart move. Smart
Right.
move for sure. Yeah, you want to be able to fall back on something, be able to stay stable, kind of still keeping the money flow coming in.
Correct.
So, yeah, that makes sense. And so, just kind of going back to how you said like with your family and with how you were raised, like how your mom and dad raised you to pretty much be organized. Like, do you feel like there was ever a part or a place in your life where you felt like you got off track with that, even though that was something that they taught you growing up? And then if so, how do you feel like where do you feel that like that shift to get back on track came in for you?
So yeah, like when I was probably about 23, 24 years old, like I said, my background, my dad was in the military for 46 years. So that's all they taught them was organization. That's
Yeah.
kind of the stuff that he placed into me. And my mom has always been very organized.
Yeah.
So like I said, I feel like throughout my life, they, just by example, they taught me organization. Now, with everything that I've learned, and besides the organization part, they've always pushed me academically, even though if I didn't want to do it or I didn't feel like I was up to it or something like that, they always pushed me on the boundaries on that. So that just kind of made me, which I didn't see till later in life, that it just kind of made me well rounded in a lot of aspects. So there was a point in my life, like I was saying, like I feel like it's not too many things that I can't do.
Hmm.
So at one point in my life, I was trying to do too many things at once.
Okay.
And I feel like it kind of was clustering up my life, and every little thing what I was doing, whether it was a restaurant, real estate, landscaping, promotions for other businesses, or whatever the case is, that none of them were running at their, ultimate capacity because I wasn't organized.
Yeah.
And for me, organized, is not like cleaning up your room or something like that. It was
Yeah.
like I said, putting one first. Like, okay, let me start here. These other three or four might fall off a little bit, but if I get this one running correctly, I can come back to those.
Yeah.
And that's what I had to stop and look at what was going on. And then that's what I had to fix within my life.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. And um, I guess, do you remember how long it, like when that finally clicked for you? Do you feel like, do you remember how long that it took for it to really just like settle in and for you to start, um, not just reaping the rewards, but also feeling like, okay, yeah, this was the right decision for me to stop doing everything all at once and then just going for this one thing and then just going from there. Do you feel like you felt, or do you feel like you felt that?
Yeah, I definitely felt that because, like I said, all of my businesses had pretty much been successful at
Hmm.
one point. So like I was saying with restaurants, I've had restaurants that's closed in a year. I have restaurants that's closed in 6 years.
Yeah.
So, and then I just have a little bit different business approach when it comes to restaurants. I don't particularly want to open any restaurants that's going to be open. I mean, I want them to be open for however long, but I don't
Hmm.
want to own them for too long. So I just try to either get them to a point where somebody else wants to come buy them,
Hmm.
then I sell it, whatever the case is. But going back to your question, so like at one point, for example, I had when I first got into real estate, probably like 2 years in, I was doing really, really well. Like just in the me as a real estate agent helping other people, I probably was selling like 6 to 10 homes a month
Wow.
within probably like a 6 month period, which it was still, it was getting better as I
Yeah.
was going. I was getting better. So, but when it came, what happened was one of my restaurants opened, and I was putting a lot of time into it, and it kind of made that fall off. Now,
Hmm.
I knew that was going to happen, but I had the idea that, okay, maybe it'll take me about 2 or 3 months. I did really well over these last 6 months, so I got some capital build up. If I can do this correctly, I can go back and, get right back on pace with the real estate.
Yeah.
Well, things didn't work out too well with the restaurant, so the real estate ended up falling off, and I ended up at one point not doing any deals for about 9 months. So I
Gotcha.
went from doing 6 to 10 to
Yeah.
zero, and then my bar wasn't doing good either.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like something that really hit me really hard. So
Yeah.
what I had to do is come back to real estate and structure it to where first it can be ran without me just doing every single thing.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back when I went back to the restaurants, I had to do it as well. Like I was saying earlier, is the same thing. I was trying to do everything at first, but
Mhm.
I had to put it to where, okay, I need to put people in place. I need to be able to trust them, so I won't have to put all my time into it. I can still manage and make sure my other businesses, like for real estate, for instance, is going well.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I feel like happened to me that at the time I thought it was really like it really was detrimental, but it ended
Mhm.
up being a very good learning point that I learned and something that I implemented.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And just to kind of, I guess, piggyback off of that. So you, I heard in there in a sense that you like created this like plan, um, of when you were selling like 6 to 10 houses, in a 6 month period. And so when you had like your bar, you knew that it was gonna. You said you knew that it would fall off. And so it was almost like you planned for it to happen, but even though it didn't entirely happen the way that you wanted it to, would you say, would you, in that sense, would you call yourself like someone who in the organizing realm, or when it comes to organizing, would you call yourself someone who like is a planner or like to the T, or you're like the flexible planner? Like, what do you see yourself as?
I would say then at that period, I was more kind of like in between. Like
Gotcha.
I definitely planned, but I still was kind of like, not really going with the flow,
Mm-hmm.
but like just like literally somewhere in the median.
Yeah.
But I had to change that and actually become a planner.
Mhm.
Like I felt like, because I'm just an entrepreneur and I'm a hustler at heart.
Yeah.
So I always, I never felt like, oh, I'm going to go broke or something like that. But at the same time, if I would have planned more, then I still would have, you know, kept going up instead of like even just, kind of like coasting.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't fall down to ground zero, I was coasting. Where if I would have planned better, I would still, been going up instead of just, being in the median.
Yeah. Yeah. And just knowing that now, that I'm assuming that's helped you like get further now. Is that right? That,
Correct.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. No, for I get that. Like for me, I feel like I'm on the other side of the spectrum where I plan like to the T. Well, no. So I'm on the other side of the spectrum in the sense of I used to plan like everything to the T, but now I'm noticing that for me more flexibility, like being a little bit more flexible with things is pretty much it's easier for me because it takes the control piece out. And I used to be a like really hardcore control freak in a sense. And I mean, that's not a good way to be planning things and to be organizing things either because I can't control everything in life, you know?
Right.
So,
So for me, when I say planning and organization,
mm-hmm.
it's more of finances. You know,
Okay.
when you're talking about anything else,
Yeah.
when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be flexible, like
Yeah.
you're saying. You really have to just, whatever comes with it, you gotta know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's more of on a financial tip.
Okay.
Like either not putting all your eggs in one basket,
Mm-hmm.
or what I'm saying, just planning financially for the future. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm like looking at my bank account like, oh, you got a couple 100,000, like you're gonna be okay. Instead of like, okay, this is exactly how this money's gonna go, where
Yeah.
it's gonna go, how much time you got till the money's gonna run out,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I like that's what I was doing then, just kind of like not planning for stuff like that. Which I
Mm.
said, like I said, it didn't really hurt me to where I was like I lost everything or something like that. But
Mm.
I would have known, beforehand when I needed to switch certain stuff up instead of waiting until like, okay, you're down to this amount of money. It's time to do something. You got to figure out something to do. I
Yeah.
would have known that was coming already if I'd have been more organized. Or not, I can't say it.
No, too.
Organized. I don't know how you say it.
Yeah. Organized.
Organized. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Organized with my finances, as far as planning with that.
That makes sense. And I guess even kind of elaborating on that a little bit, would you say that now, when it comes to being more planned in that area, do you feel like you have a team that helps you in that area too, or is it pretty much just you, like organizing your finances and just knowing for a fact, like that this is how much you have, this is where the money is going, this is how much you'll have later, like at this specific date, if you don't continue going in the area in the direction that you're going? Like, is it all you, or do you feel like you have a team that helps you along with that?
So I would say 75% me.
Okay.
Really, if you really want to, come down to it, it's gonna be 100%. But
Yeah.
I do have a team. Like, you got to have a CPA. You got to have people like that to where you can go get advice.
Yeah.
But even like with a CPA, I mean, depending on how much money you got, but only like multi-millionaires got somebody watching all their dollars at all times. Like
Yeah.
normal entrepreneurs, they turning in their stuff either quarterly or yearly. Most
Yeah.
people yearly. So throughout that whole year, who's looking at everything? It's going to be you. It's going to
Yeah.
be whoever it is. Nobody's going to watch your money and spend it. You're going to be one spending it. You're going to be the one that cares for it. So right now, like I said, for me, I focus more on the finances,
Mm-hmm.
everything, and all the businesses that I do. I just try to put more people in place in the other aspects to
Mm-hmm.
where I can focus on the finances.
Yeah.
So a team is very important for sure.
That makes sense. That makes sense. It's like delegating the task for everything
Correct.
else. Yeah. All right. Well, that I really appreciate you joining in for this podcast episode and just like giving your um, background and just what organizing means to you, how it has contributed to your life, and it continues to contribute to your life in just many different ways. Um, and so the last question that I have for you is, what's one organizing tip that you use currently? It can be in the realm of finances, life overall, just one organizing tip that you would like to share with the viewers and listeners.
So one organizing tip that I would tell all entrepreneurs, I mean, that's the only thing I can go off of because that's what I
Mhm.
do.
Yeah.
Um, you know, maybe this applies to everyday workers as well, but definitely get a good CPA or accountant. Like that is because how life work is compounding. Like which is so for entrepreneurs, the most thing that we hate every year is paying taxes.
Yeah.
So sometimes paying taxes is a good thing. Sometimes, you know, you don't have to pay taxes and it's the right time.
Yeah.
But you want to have somebody who's qualified and knows the different programs that's going on, whether it's the new tax laws or whatever the case is. Someone giving you that advice so you know what to do and what to prepare for and how to
Mhm.
run your business because there's a lot of stuff out there that you can get, not just loans, grants,
Yeah.
or like when I can't think of the right word for it, but just advantages when it comes to like your taxes and your
Almost like tax credits.
like credits and stuff like that. There's
Okay.
another word I was looking for, but I can't remember. But yeah, stuff like that. Like that is very, very essential to your business because if you look at any business, like you look from where they started and you look at where they're at today, it's
Yeah.
not because they had this just amazing product. It's the way that they structured how they was going to, organize how they was doing with the product,
Yeah.
or whatever the case is. Like, and everybody grows. Nobody just started at the top. I
Yeah.
don't care if it's Steve Jobs or Apple or Amazon, whoever. Like
Mhm.
they all started somewhere, but they structured their business to where every year is growing.
Yeah.
And your finances is what's going to do that for you because you can literally make 100,000 and spend 100,000. But if you have someone telling you exactly where to place those dollars or how to write it up to where maybe you writing it off or you're not writing it off, you could have, like I said, you could have made $100,000 and then spent $100,000 in you know on your business as well.
Yeah.
If you don't have somebody who's giving you this advice, you might look at it as you made $100,000 in profit, and then you might pay taxes on that $100,000
Yeah.
where you could have wrote off the whole $100,000. That's just an example. But that's one thing that I would say it's going to cost you. And I know a lot of people try to handle it themselves, but at
Mhm.
the end of the day, is it's just one of those things. Like if you have somebody that's um, skilled and that's all they do, like
Mhm.
it's better for you to pay them a few $100s to make sure that you're on point because it will you will reap the benefits of it.
Yeah. I feel like that's a good tip. That's definitely a good tip. And like you said, it all circles back around to even just like what you mentioned with your team, like having people in place in different areas on the team to be able to take care of different things,
Right,
so that you're not burning yourself out. It's almost like you want to be able to operate from a place of where you work best in a
right,
sense, and then like delegating other people to do things that they're good at to help you still succeed. So
right.
yeah,
That's correct.
that's good. That's good. All right. Well, I am gonna get ready to let you go, but before we go, I did want to just ask you, how can people stay connected with you if they, or how can they reach out to you if they're interested in staying connected?
Okay, well, mostly people reach out to me. I have business cards, stuff like that. But normally, I do, all my advertisement and everything like that on social media. So you can find me on all social media outlets. My name on everything is Realtor It All. So that's RealtorItall. So on literally everything, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, everything like that, you can find me there. Or you can just Google my name, Earl Thomas Ware Jr. I'll come up on that on Google. I have a Google business profile, so I can be found there. And that's how you can stay in touch with me.
All right. And I didn't know you had a YouTube page, so I have to go make sure I subscribe to that and stay
Yes,
connected.
I just started it, so I have maybe like 3 videos. But
Okay.
that's just one of the things that I'm trying to like make sure I'm organized enough to so I can do more
Yeah.
YouTube videos. So like right now I'm in the middle of opening a restaurant, so I don't have too much time to do it along
Yeah.
with real estate still. But
Yeah.
hopefully, in the next couple weeks I'll be putting out some more videos. But definitely I have some on there, so go check them out, see what you think, and give me some feedback.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, again, thank you for joining in, Earl. I'll go ahead and let you exit. And thank you again for joining. And I
Well, I
hope you
really
have,
appreciate the opportunity.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I look forward to staying connected with you too, and also coming to support the restaurant.
Oh,
Once,
definitely. I'll let you know. I mean, you'll probably see it on my social media page.
yeah,
Once everything is going, you probably see me start, talking
yeah,
about hiring and
yeah.
soft openings and then eventually the grand opening. But it's
Okay.
going to be coming soon.
Okay. Sounds good. And I'll make sure I'm sharing it just in case anybody that I know wants to work like for the restaurant and for you in the restaurant as well. So
Well, I really appreciate that.
you're welcome. I hope you have a good night, and I'll be talking to you soon.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, y'all. As you heard there, we had Earl joining us today as our podcast guest for episode 8 of Organizing Untold. So many good things that he mentioned, so many necessary and important pieces to know as an entrepreneur, being that that is an area that he uh, dwells in and does business in. But yeah, definitely take heed to what he was saying. And if you want to be able to grow, if you want to be able to be better, you have to know how to delegate. You have to also not be afraid to delegate. Also be just open to letting other people lead. It's not that they're taking over the business for you, it's more so that you're delegating different tasks to them so that the business can still be able to run and you can succeed as a business owner. So, thank you all for tuning in to episode 8. Again, just to do a brief description, this is nicely placed organizing, where we organize homes, offices, and um, workspaces for um, homes, offices, and workspaces for first time home buyers. This is nicely placed organizing, where we organize homes, offices, and workspaces for first time home buyers, those who are overwhelmed with the organizing process, and artists who have art studios and workspaces. So, next episode that we have will be sharing an offer. So, make sure y'all tune in at the end of that episode as well. We'll be sharing an organizing package offer that we have going on right now with y'all. But for now, on this episode, we are going to go ahead and mention again, if you haven't already, check out the link in our bio on Instagram and Facebook, the first link to be able to fill out our phases of the organizing process assessment. And so, what that assessment is going to help you do is be able to clear any physical and mental blocks that you're having with organizing and help you be able to organize better so you can become a better version of yourself and also get to the next phase of the organizing process. And you want to be able to do that so that you can be able to show up as your best self, be able to save yourself time in organizing and in getting in and out of your area when you need to, and also being able to have a peace of mind always, because a cluttered mind gives a cluttered space, and vice versa. If your space is cluttered, then it's going to reflect in your mind and in what you're thinking. So we appreciate y'all for joining in today for today's episode. We can't wait to see you next week for another episode of Organizing Untold. Talk to you soon.